All right, let's talk about this. So Richard Ntar, the phenomenal Phenoms club president, he came out with a statement that was quite puzzling, and I saw it in a recent interview on YouTube. And without further ado, let's just get into it. So he said the barrier to entry to the Premier League should be different. It should be easier if you come with a certain amount of funds. I understand your structure of going from D3 to D2 to D1 and finally the Premier League, but no one has that time for that anymore. In this fast day and age, you can't wait 4 years to get an ideal organization into the Premier League. So this is actually quite interesting because coming from a team that doesn't even have an actual team and lost to the best team in the country, actually it's laughable what he said, because this disregards like the actual process that a team goes through, especially when they want to lock up opposition in the Premier League. And there's due process for a team to be in the Premier League, and I strongly disagree with what this man is saying, because it's just a slap in the face and trying to besmirch the actual process that leads a team to the Premier League. And given like what he said, it was quite fascinating. It should be easier if you come with a certain amount of funds. So you can't pay to win the Premier League because you can't pay for legitimacy. Be legitimate, you have to go through the whole process. Every single team that plays in the Premier League has followed that process through the years. They've gone to Div 3, which is the NBA. They played in Div 2, played in Div 1 in the Premier League. If they don't perform well in the Premier League, they get relegated to Div 1. If they don't play well in Div 1, they get relegated to Div 2. So that's how the life cycle in the ecosystem of Kenyan basketball is. I'm not sure how long this guy has been in Kenyan b-ball, but I felt like this was a very ignorant statement, especially coming from a person who is the president of basketball operations. He should be well aware of the actual systems that are already there. So this guy coming out here and saying that you have to pay a certain amount of funds to do that, it's not even a matter of even like if it's a viable option or not, but is it a legitimate way to be there? Because other teams have followed the same process and you want to come in because you think that you have the money and pay to be there. You can't buy legitimacy, and legitimacy cannot sanitize you. Money cannot sanitize your legitimacy even being there. Even if you come in and pay, teams are going to look at you different because they'll be looking at you as a team that don't deserve that spot to be there. So I know there's a lot of chatter, especially when it comes to like social media. People have given a lot of opinions on this, but here's mine. And I feel like this situation, if let's say for example it goes through and they do what they wanted to do and they pay to be in the Premier League, what happens if they perform poorly in the Premier League because they somewhat disrespected the system and disregarded the process and disrespected the process as well, and they fall short and they finish bottom two? Will they A, pay again to be in the Premier League, or B, get relegated and go back to Div 1 or wherever they're gonna go? So that's another whole Pandora's box that's gonna be opened if this gate is open for a team to get into the back door, because I feel like this is a back door that he's trying to conjure up and manufacture. And I feel like the system, the way it has been designed, it is at par to what has been going through the years. As much as the constitution has dictated D3, which is the NBA, Div 2, Div 1, the Premier League has to be there. There's that pecking order for teams. When a team is good and the team is starting in the league, they have to start all the way from the bottom so that they can be battle tested and show the reason as to why they are here. And if they are good enough, they play an extra level every single time. So even looking at this man's team, I know he's coming out saying that he is the president of the Phenomenal Phenoms Basketball Club. We have not seen the Phenomenal Phenoms play in any major league in the country. We have not seen any. Majority of the time, we've only seen them play in Arena 1, all that. This is the only time they had the they had the balls to come in and challenge the best team in the country, and they got beat by it. the way, in the manner in which, even in the build up to how they lost, it showed a disregard to even roster construction, because majority of the players playing there, they don't play for the phenomenal Phenoms because that's their team. They've just been taken only for that assignment only. Majority of them, the players who play locally, you can see Bosir plays for the Kuti Dumas. You can see who else? Victor Electric plays for the Kuti Dumas. We saw Eugene, he plays for the KPA Dockers. We just plays for the KPA Dockers. We had players, and Brands, he plays for the Ulinzi Warriors. So it was just a mixture of players from the top 4 teams in the Premier League. And this guy came in and just put them together thinking that that is his team, and it's not his team, because these players already have their own established teams that they play for. And you coming out and start saying that you want to get in there. So what happens when you play, when you pay there, you play for one season, then you lose badly, or let's say for example you only win one game and have a record of 1-21, will you still pay to be there, or will you get relegated, or you're gonna pay money to not get relegated? So there's a whole Pandora's box that gets opened given that situation. And I just said, let me just weigh in on it, because as much as this guy is coming here with his opinions in there, the basketball ecosystem is structured here in Kenya. I don't know where this guy is from, because if you have been watching Kenyan basketball long enough, you'll understand that there's a hierarchy, there's levels to this. There are teams that will be destined to play in the Premier League. There are teams that are destined to play in Div 1. There are teams that are destined to play in Div 2. The only distinction between those divisions, even in the NBA, is how well are those players improving every single year that they play there. If you're very good in the NBA and you make the finals, you go up a level. So it's always about outplaying and always improving every single time. This guy came out and said you can't wait 4 years to get to an ideal organization to the Premier League. It's called trusting the process. It's called giving it a few years for you to be able to be battle tested and battle hardened. You just can't jump into the Premier League, and teams don't even know what you're about. They don't even know you like that. And what happens if the competition in the Premier League is too difficult for you? Will you start coming out and complaining and giving these statements and saying that the Premier League is too hard to play in there, so you want to leave? So what happens if, like, a couple of foreigners, if they come in, they pay through the back door they have their team in the Premier League, right? When they have their team in the Premier League, it fails poorly, then they just leave. What happens to that situation? Because that's something that might happen, and it's a scenario, it's an outcome, that's a possible outcome if you are analyzing it closely, that can happen. Let's say, for example, this guy gets the chance to play in the Premier League with his team, and their team is there. What if they get brutalized and he decides to just opt out in the off season and just abandon the Premier League slot? What happens in that situation? So there are a lot of things that are being put out there. There are a lot of people who I feel like they should educate themselves in how the systems work. And even if they manage to win in the Premier League, not even manage to win, because right now it's actually quite difficult, because if winning the Premier League, that will mean that you have to beat the Ulinzi Warriors, that means that you have to beat the KPA Dockers, that means that you have to beat the Equity Dumas, and for damn sure you have to beat the Nairobi City Thunder. So this guy is actually trying to say that if his team gets put in the Premier League, he's going to win it all. And it doesn't work like that. That's a shortcut, and the world does not work like that. I don't know what type of world that this guy has been on, but you have to understand that there's a pecking order when it comes to Kenyan b-ball. You cannot just waltz in and put your team and think your team is the best thing since sliced bread, considering the fact that even your team is an amalgam of players who only met for like 2 days and they went into the game. So I feel like this guy needs to educate himself on Kenyan basketball. He has to understand that processes do not work the way he thinks, and there's the reality and the nuanced way to the ways in which processes work, especially in Kenyan b-ball. This is not to say that it's not good for that to happen, but all I'm just saying, there's a reason as to why the system is built like that, and that's just my opinion. So do drop me your feedback down in the comment section what you think about this. And Richard, please try to reach out to and see why the processes have been put there. I know you're looking at going to road to BAL or even the BAL, but there's also that means you have to win the league and you have to go through road to BAL, and there are no guarantees that you're going to win when you go to road to BAL. So what happens if you fail in road to BAL? You have to go back to how things were. So you have to keep that in mind before that. This is not a direct ticket like other countries. Other countries like Rwanda, Senegal, Egypt, Tunisia, they get, in Angola, they get direct tickets to go to BAL after they win the league. Kenya is not in that category. Kenya is not in that level. When Kenya wins, a Kenyan team wins the Premier League, they have to go through that gauntlet of road to BAL so that they can finish either number 1, 2, or 3. This is not a direct ticket nation, so you have to understand that. If you want a direct ticket nation, go with your team, go compete in the Angolan league, go compete in the Nigerian league, go compete in the Egyptian league, go compete in Tunisian league. Go mix it up with them so that you can get a direct ticket to BAL if you're looking for that. If you're looking for a way to get into BAL through Kenya, you're gonna go and scrap it the way the Dynamo team from Burundi scrapped it, or even the City Oilers from Uganda, the way they scrapped it to get to that level. So that's just my opinion. So do drop me your feedback down in the comment section. If you're watching this on Instagram, please make sure to follow me. Hit that follow button on there. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you get notified. And I'm out. Peace.